A legacy is not what you leave on a shelf. It is not the record of what you accomplished, or the evidence of where your name appeared, or the formal account of what you built. A legacy is what lives in people, in the specific ways they were changed by knowing you, in the things they carry forward that they would not have carried without you, in the quality of their lives that is slightly different, better, deeper, more genuinely themselves, because you were in them for a while. James Dean died at 24 years old in September 1955. He had made 3 films. He had been famous for approximately 3 years. He had not had the career of someone who had been given time to fully build something. What he had left, by any conventional measure of legacy, was limited. 3 performances, some photographs, some recorded interviews, and the particular quality of presence that all of them communicated. And yet the legacy has lasted, not because of its volume, because of its quality. Because something in those 3 films, something in the specific way he inhabited the roles, in the psychological depth and the physical honesty of it, communicated something that reached people and didn't let go. He had hoped, before he died, that it would be this way. Not in a grand, self-congratulatory sense. He was not a man who spoke easily about his legacy in those terms. But in the conversations he had with people close to him, directors, fellow actors, the small number of genuine friends he had, he spoke about what he wanted to have contributed. Not to his career, to the art form, and beyond it, to people. He talked about the obligation of anyone who was given a gift to use it in service of something other than their own advancement. Not a formal obligation in the way of a contract, more like a moral intuition. If you have the ability to show someone something true, something about what a human being can feel or survive or become, then not doing that is a kind of waste. Not of talent, of opportunity. The opportunity to make someone feel less alone in their own experience. To show them, this is a person who felt what you feel. This is a person who was afraid of the same things you are afraid of. This is a person who wanted what you want and didn't always get it, and kept going anyway. And that showing, that act of genuine representation, changes something in the person who receives it. James Dean said, in one of the interviews he gave in his final year, when the fame was real and the pressure that came with it was real, that what he hoped would outlast the films was not the image. He was clear about that. The image, the rebel, the cool, the carefully constructed appeal of his public persona was something he felt some distance from. A version of himself that worked for the magazines and the studio, but that was not the whole of what he was. What he hoped would outlast the image was something different. The honesty, the quality of the work when it was working, when the performance was not performance at all, but simply a person being genuinely present in a moment. That, he said, was what he wanted people to remember. Not the icon, the attempt to be real. The attempt to be real. That is a legacy worth leaving. And it doesn't require fame to leave it. It doesn't require films or photographs or any formal record. It only requires the consistent effort to be genuinely present in your own life, to show up as actually yourself, rather than the managed version, in the moments that matter. And that presence in the people who received it persists. Maybe you've already left more of it than you know. Maybe there are people in your life, right now or from earlier chapters, who carry something from their time with you that they would not have without you. Something you showed them or said to them, or simply were in their presence, that changed something in how they see themselves or the world. Something that has been working in them long after the specific moments that produced it. That is legacy. The real kind. Not in any formal record. In people. James Dean's legacy has lasted 7 decades, not because he was the most skilled actor of his era. Other actors were more skilled. It has lasted because something about what he showed, the vulnerability underneath the strength, the fear and the longing, and the desire to be genuinely known that he allowed to be visible, reached people in a place that is hard to reach. And having been reached there, they did not forget. They carried what they felt in those moments forward, and they gave it to other people in various forms across the decades. And those people gave it further. The original gesture, the honesty of 3 performances in 3 films by a 24-year-old who died before he could make more, is still moving in the world. What you offer, in whatever form your particular honesty and presence and genuine care takes, is moving too. Through the people who have been with you, through what they carry from knowing you, through the ways they are slightly different because you were in their lives. That movement is real, and it extends further than you can see. James Dean had 24 years. He used them well, in the ways that mattered most. Not perfectly, no one uses 24 years perfectly, but genuinely, with the willingness to show something true, with the courage to be actually present in the work and in the life, rather than simply performing the appropriate version of both. That willingness, that courage, that presence, these are what lasted. Not the fame, the realness. You have more time than James Dean had, and you can use it in the same way. Not by being an icon, by being genuinely, consistently, courageously present. By showing the real thing, not just to audiences, but to the specific people in your specific life who need someone to show them what genuine presence looks like. By being honest, even when honesty is more vulnerable than the managed version. By being actually there. That is the legacy. It is the only one that lasts. And it is being built, or not built, in the texture of every ordinary day. So take a slow breath, and maybe, this week, let yourself be a little more genuinely there. In one conversation, one relationship, one moment where you choose the real thing over the performed version. That is what James Dean hoped to contribute to the world, and it is what the world still needs from each of us. The attempt to be real, made again and again in the ordinary moments, until it becomes less an attempt and more simply, how we are. James Dean was 24 years old when he died, and yet the conversation about what he contributed has not ended in the 7 decades since. Not because of the fame. Fame alone does not sustain that kind of conversation. But because people continue to find something in those 3 performances that speaks to something in their own experience. Something about the particular quality of being genuinely present in a moment. Something about the cost and the value of not performing the easier version of yourself. Something about the courage it takes to be actually there, actually in the room, actually feeling what the scene requires, actually vulnerable, rather than managing the impression from a safe distance. That quality is recognizable across generations because it is always rare and always needed. The world does not have a shortage of people who can produce the managed version, the version that presents well and risks little and moves through encounters at the surface. What the world is always short of is people who are willing to be genuinely there, in the specific conversation, in the actual feeling, in the true encounter with another person, without the protective layer. James Dean offered that in his work, and the impact of it outlasted everything else about him. The image faded into its own genre. The cultural moment moved on. But the quality of genuine presence in those films remained legible to people who had never lived in the era that produced him. Because presence is always legible, in any era, to anyone who recognizes the rarity of it. You have the same capacity. Not for the film performances. The medium is different. The circumstances are different. But for the quality itself, for genuine presence in the actual moments of your actual life. In the conversation you are having, rather than the one you are mentally preparing for. In the person in front of you, rather than the broader story you are managing. In the feeling that is actually here, rather than the feeling it would be more comfortable to have. That quality, the willingness to be actually there, is available to you in every ordinary encounter. And every time you choose it, you leave something of value behind. Not a performance that is recorded. Not a role that critics will evaluate. Something quieter and more permanent. The specific quality of an encounter that was genuine. In the person who received it, still present, still working, still part of how they understand what it means to be met with someone who was truly there. That is the legacy worth leaving. And it begins in the very next moment where you choose the real thing.